Auspex. I'm Kyle, and you must be very used to me after the last few weeks of seeing my face over and over and over. But to change things up, we got Thurston with us today.
I was about to say, you're not used to seeing my face because I've been in Conapalooza for like the last month, and it will only continue for a while longer. But I am back for like the next few weeks. So hi everybody, and welcome.
Don't forget him.
Yeah, I know. I'll be back, I swear. Actually, you got me for like a month, maybe. Well, depending on how. It's great. Welcome everyone to the
It's gonna be fantastic.
And we got a lot of things to talk about.
Yeah. So starting off today, we're going to touch on some local tournament results.
Yeah.
So last weekend, PrairieCon was held in Brandon. This is one of their annual events out there. PrairieCon is actually a multi-gaming event been going on for 38 years now, something like that. And the 40K event has been a solid feature for years and years. This time around, Harleys came out on top.
Filthy clowns.
Yes. I would do my seductive honking, but it doesn't look as good as the meme picture. So Jason Wells, he ended up pulling out the big victory here.
Yeah.
Started out against a Met Guard list in his first game and absolutely wrecked it because as a Harlequins player, that's the kind of thing you want to see.
I was going to say, that's like the worst matchup possible.
I think the official score was 41-4. Jason was saying it should have been 41-1, but it was recorded wrong. But at that point, he was feeling generous. So those extra 3 points, they went right to his opponent.
Well, congrats to Jason, and let's see what happens.
And from what I understand, congrats on a good event.
Yeah.
They had some nice prizes out.
I think it was Homer who was doing the organizing.
Homer was definitely doing the TO this time around. I can't remember who got what in the draws, but I do know Corey, who's one of the out-of-town guys, like Ben Gerling and his brother. He won one of the new knights.
Oh, cool.
I can't remember if it was Valiant, but not. But yeah, he got a knight kit.
Just don't shoot off my invulnerable saves. I need those to invulnerable
It's
save.
okay. I think you're safe. Knowing him, he's probably going to turn into a Stompa.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Beautiful.
Yep. Fantastic.
That's what needs to happen with those knights.
Yeah.
Turn them into Orc Stompas.
Stompas everywhere.
That's right.
But congratulations on running a good event, guys. And unfortunately, some of us weren't able to make it out. I had work that weekend, but next time around, next year, I'm hoping to be back for it.
Yeah, convention season, yay.
Yeah.
It's always the dance.
It's
but
a hard one for you, yeah. I feel you. At the same
Plains
time,
of
I'm
War
really
now
jealous,
but the Highlander, I'm going to try it.
Yes. The Highlander event in the end of August 25th. Of course, we do still have some spots open for that event, which is a little bit of a surprise when you're used to seeing the Plains of War tickets or the Twin Eagles tickets go.
Yeah, but if you're interested, I would scoop those up right away.
Yes.
We'll give a reminder at the end of the show if they haven't
we will
already
definitely
been
touch on that again, but a little reminder to folks that spots are available. If you're thinking about it, please do. Please join. And even if you try and sign up and it says they're all sold out, get on the waiting list right away. That's a good indicator for us of how to expand this and where we can expand. How many people get on there is a big indicator for us. All right, and I think that touches a little bit on the local events for now. Moving on, we are going to be touching on... Oh, this one's always fun. So Thurston, State of Forge World.
Whoa. Let's drive this subterranean vehicle back a little bit.
Okay. I know you want to touch on that one first. So Forge World obviously previewed some important information for your armies in the last little bit.
Did.
So take that one away.
So as someone who was all in on AdMech 7th edition, I picked up the Hoplites and the Peltas Secutari units.
Almost as soon as they came out, right?
I think I was the first person in town to have like a painted unit.
Yes.
Which for me is very surprising because I take forever to paint. But
well, I remember when you showed up with them, and I was like, oh, they're here.
I picked them up like in an early release at Gen Con, 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
And I got them and was like, oh man, they're going to get 40K rules. Eventually they're going to get 40K rules. Oh, they totally got 40K rules and they're awesome. And then I played them in one game and I was like, sweet. And then the edition changed.
And then 8th edition.
And then I was like, when do I get to use them? When do I get to use them? When do I get to eventually...
Why am I not using them now?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And suddenly, last week, Forge World...
out of nowhere, pretty much, because they had been saying that the rumored Tau AdMech Imperial Armor book that's been talked about for 2 years now.
It's been on hiatus.
Yeah, they're saying it's not going to be touched, we're not working on it as much, and then, boom.
Then boom, we got 3 things. We got Hoplites, we got Peltas, which all super excited, and then I read them and was very disappointed. We'll get to that because it's all balanced out by the next thing, which is really the crux of this segment. AdMech get a transport, and they get the termite. You know that thing
that you were ranting about?
Yeah, I ranted and whined about several episodes ago.
Back when the Deepkin launched, and I was complaining about the dice. Yeah,
and they came out with this glorious model of a termite transport, and on the side of it there was the Cog Mechanicus, and like there were Mechanicum troops coming out of it, and you're like, wow,
this is perfect because AdMech don't have transports.
This is gonna fix so many.
Yeah.
Oh, it only seats Space Marines.
Oh.
But yes, they've updated the termite with. Not only have they updated it to like work with the AdMech army, they've updated it to also like have some changed rules from the previous iteration.
And Chaos actually.
Well, Chaos had it in the last iteration
did they as well?
too. Yep. It still has the one thing I don't like about it from the Chaos iteration, which is like eats its occupants, which I always hate having like silly things that it's like.
That's a very Chaos thing.
Yeah. It's not a good thing, but it's a Chaos
But it's
thing.
something they keep including. Yeah.
And so yeah, the termite is bonkers.
It is bonkers.
Utterly.
It really is. Okay.
Stupid bonkers.
So
for
when you
what it
looked at the
does.
sheet, start with what jumped out at you. What really looked as super impressive?
I mean, okay, like the obvious thing is it's transport that can pop out 9 inches away. I can have guys sitting in there, be fairly comfortable, and then mulch whatever they come out.
Yes.
To. So that
That's putting you in your optimum range.
And I was like, wow, that's all. Hey, I have like electro priests that I never use. Sweet. Oh man, those hoplites that I'm on the fence of because they'll never get into combat. Oh man, they could get into combat. Hell, my like Vanguard can come out and like I can triple plasma you. That's pretty cool. But then I was like, okay, like where's the catch? And then I realized that this thing can also just pop out and assault a knight and murder it, and that's pretty cool.
Right?
I mean, like I don't want to say it's going to be straight out of Total Recall with Benny and his 8 children, but that's
it's straight out of Total Recall with Benny and his 8 children. I'm sorry.
Probably how I'm going to play it. Like I got mouths to feed. So yeah, I'm super excited for that. I'll probably be looking at like picking up 2 of them.
Yeah.
I want to wait.
You got to brace for that possible rules adjustment.
Yeah, like once people go whoa.
It can do what?
Yeah, exactly. It can like kill off a knight. No.
Although,
abort.
depending how popular it is, you may be able to avoid that. Harlequins, I've noticed because of their, probably less popular, less generally available or played, they seem to have dodged a lot of the things that people thought were going to get nerfed with that last FAQ.
And I think, too, that the game is moving to a very rock, paper, scissors-esque
Certainly
situation.
is.
With, like,
Certainly
you bring up Harlequins. Yeah, my termite doesn't like Harlequins in that it will die to, like, any shooting that happens.
Absolutely.
Except if it pops out and assaults them, because that would just be hilarious.
That would be gross. That would absolutely be gross.
But yeah, I think, like, getting a transport for them is awesome. I was also looking
almost
at
key, I would say.
I was also looking at my Death Guard, too, and being like, there's some fun
we were talking
stuff
earlier, and I was bringing up Ben Gerling making good use of the Lightning Hands priests, the Lightning Hands Electro priests.
Corpus Scari, yeah.
Yes, with them in the transport, and not just being a deterrent in the backfield, not having to slog their way all the way up.
You're popping the tank out 9 inches.
Yeah.
You can't get out when it pops up, can you? Because it's the end of your movement phase, so you can't get out. So you're sitting there for a bit. But whoop-de-doo, you're close enough, and it's going to provide them a bubble.
Yes.
You'd have to basically pop that tank and then pop the 20 guys with invulnerable saves inside. That takes a lot of concerted firepower for basically one unit that is surprising your opponent.
Yes.
Well, you still have things like Call and his robots in the backfield.
Absolutely. It's the idea of putting too many threats out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if it gets off, and we're like theory hammering some math, I mean, you're looking at something like 20-man unit, 40 shots. Each of the, you pop a strat to get +1 to hit. Each 5 or 6 is now 2 additional hits.
Suddenly, instead of maybe 3 or 4 additionals, you're getting 8, 9 additionals. Yeah,
like it is a solid.
Yeah,
solid.
3 hits for every 6 is a lot of strength 5 shooting to absorb.
Yeah, and I don't know if it can hold 20 guys. It might only hold 12 or something. But even then, it's still like
that's still a volume of shots.
Yeah, and then you're
and it might even be the assault 3. It might even be the 3 shots a pop. I can't quite recall.
Yeah, and
but
you're gonna possibly use one of those points, like one of those hard points, to put a tech priest in, and then you're gonna re-roll. Like it's the game of 40k right now. It's the game of AOS right now. It's combo wombo time, and that is gonna be an excellent thing to have in the back pocket.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when we're about to hit the point where we don't know what's happening anymore. We know
Yeah.
books are coming out. We know they have to get to the end of the codexes that they released. And then at that point, there's a big question mark.
Yeah, because we've got, what, like 4 codexes left?
3, 4 if they include the Agents of the Imperium.
Oh, sorry, 5, because Yunari. Bam. Yeah, I know. No one wants to hear the Y word.
It's not going to come out.
But yeah, I was really surprised, which I guess kind of segues into what we're going to talk about next, which is Forge World in
Forge
general.
World. Before we jump to that, we got 2 quick comments. One from Jason Wells on Facebook, who, as we mentioned, was our Harlequin tournament winner. And he's saying, being a small side army, they have been overlooked in almost all the FAQs, referring to as Harlequins, of course, and I agree. There isn't too much that's incredibly offensive that people go, oh god, I can't deal.
I think it's also definitely like that has reached the point in their books where they've been doing it for a while now. They've learned what they need to do. I think where we'll see the big changes will be something like the chapter approved.
Absolutely.
Go like, maybe these like mortal wound haywire guns need to be like a bit more expensive. I know. But that sort of thing is where I would expect to see change. And then from D. Wickham.
Don't make me repoint my list.
He's afraid. He's got to give Ultramarine jump packs so they don't get stuck in a hole now. Well, I have to be 9 inches away from my diggy hole machine, but those Marines will still have problems.
They will have issues.
Absolutely.
More issues than they would normally face against foot AdMech.
Oh yeah, like most of the guns on AdMech are like 18 inches for their infantry, so they're going to be all dead by the time they get there. But not
suddenly
anymore.
being able to cross that gap.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But this does transition now to the Forge World discussion. We seem to be hitting a point where they're, I mean, obviously they cut out a lot of their older kits recently because they're trying to make space. They can't keep all the molds going.
Yeah.
They started hugely cutting down the terrain that they were producing, which is a bit of a surprise, as not all of those were old kits.
I've heard some stuff about the terrain. Like, I know, for example, they were doing the Realms of Battle Zone Mortalis boards. And my understanding, and this could be like crazy internet rumors.
Oh, I love crazy internet rumors.
But I had certainly heard from a few like sources, podcasts, and stuff that the molds ended up breaking because those molds are really
I could see it for that size,
especially for resin too.
Yeah.
Like they had problems with those, and that's why we don't have many more of like the Zone Mortalis boards.
Absolutely.
And the terrain pieces, they were always very awkward with some of their terrain. Like they had the random thing, like I had like the little orc idol that was like this,
right?
But then they would also do weird like combo terrain pieces like that, the Hyperios missile launchers,
Oh.
which you totally could use as terrain pieces. Or if you were like a cheesemonger like me, you would take them in 7th edition with Space Marines because they were magnificent.
Yep, and then they did terrain pieces, like they had the Necron Tomb Citadel thing where you could put different emplacements on it. They did a Space Marines version as well.
The Heresy one.
Yeah. And those were all in more recent years. But again, if the molds were having that kind of difficulty and were breaking, that's definitely going to make sense.
Yeah, and even with the heresy side of things, we also end up with this funny situation of like their upgrade kits are disappearing now.
Absolutely. And again, I think that's because with the upgrade kits, that's the Mark III, the Mark IV, even the Mark II ones are starting to vanish.
Yeah.
You're seeing GW put those out as plastics and make them regularly available.
Yeah, but they're doing that with the Marines. But
Yeah.
they're not doing that with the upgrade kits, which is where I'm like,
true.
Like if you wanna play a heresy army, you'd probably be in a good place to maybe pick up some shoulder pads, some armor.
Yep. It's a good time to do that.
Yeah.
But is this leaning towards possibly a change in what Forge World is doing, or are we going towards maybe being absorbed more fully into Games Workshop? It almost seems like there is something on the horizon.
Forge World's always been in a unique place in the hobby, though. I mean,
absolutely.
When it started off, it was very much the company of we produce the things that as Games Workshop they currently cannot produce. And
Yes.
that started off like with obviously like they jumped into Titans pretty early. Like I think the Warhound was. Well, not super early, but the Warhound came out, a couple of years into their life cycle.
Yeah.
But they were jumping on some of the things that you never saw.
Oh, absolutely.
Like for the longest time, you couldn't. Back in my day, you couldn't get a drop pod from Games Workshop. They didn't exist. There were no models for them, and so it was Forge World that actually came out with a drop pod model, and then Forge World was the first company that actually handled things like flyers.
Yep, the Dark Eldar flyers were the ones I was going to bring up as an example, but
Razor's Wings or
Yep.
those, and then there was like you look at the Eldar stuff like the Nightwing. the Thunderbolt, the Marauder
Yep.
for the Imperial Guard.
Yep. They
all the-
started to find their niche.
all the way
Yeah.
to like, okay, they decided they would jump over the bridge and like went for a full Thunderhawk. And that was still
That was
an earlier
great.
hit from them.
And our very own British West got the last of the old kit.
The last old Thunderhawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before they went to the new mold.
Yeah. But it's like it was very interesting to see because I remember back in those days it was very much like they were kind of
They were filling a niche.
well, and they were like
Yeah.
an item of prestige. Like if you had like a
Yes.
piece of Forge World, it was kind of
Yes.
the super special toy on the block, and like maybe you got an Imperial armor
Yep.
book. And like they also really dove deep into guard tank variants.
Oh, absolutely,
And they're the
yeah.
cause of some of the guard tanks that exist in the main line now.
Yeah. You can
and-
look to things like the basilisks and the
Yeah.
Earthshaker artillery.
Yeah, and I think as time went on, they sort of evolved out of that.
Mm-hmm.
They switched really into the heresy once they
And
started that line.
That was when I started in the hobby, was 2012, and that's when they put out Angron.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I
with
very distinctly remember that.
book one was Betrayal,
Yep.
and they started with the Four
Yep.
Legions and that. And that was when they really switched because that was what 5th edition.
That was end of 5th, beginning of 6th.
Yeah, it was
Yep.
end of 5th, beginning of 6th.
It was literally right at that border.
Yeah, and they started with that, and it was very interesting to see because they definitely switched from being an Imperial armor type thing to being the Horus Heresy.
The Horus
My
Heresy.
God, the money. But I think too that was also because the game edition hadn't changed much in that period.
No.
So we ended up
We
with
had very
this-
similar editions.
Yeah, well, we ended up with this very interesting situation where, because like we had all these divergent rules and like codexes that weren't being updated for years at a time,
yeah.
and people went to the heresy because it was very consistent. Because it's a lot easier to balance a game system when 90% of your games are this Space Marine punches this Space Marine,
Yes.
and everyone has
yes.
the same rules,
And you had people that, on the one hand, were very drawn into that, and others that were like, well, where's my variety?
yeah, and like the heresy, I think, really kicked off and became like a big thing. I would say, like
Oh, yeah.
nationally, right around the midpoint of 7th, where people were just
The 7th fatigue was building
Yeah.
hard at that point.
yeah,
Yes.
So a lot
yes.
of people jumped
Which
into it.
would put us about 2015, mid 2015.
Yeah, and then when we had the transition to 8th, that was a big change because Forge World had to make a decision at that point.
Yes.
Which I wonder if they regret it now, but I still think from like a business perspective they did the right thing. Whoa, lights. flimming, whoa. Producer Josh is moving.
And being God, light moves
being
with
God,
him.
the light moves with him.
Yeah.
But so Forge World had a choice to make where they could change the heresy over to 8th edition and
Yep.
like bank on whatever this new edition was.
Or they could use it as the Legacy
Or,
Edition.
or they could kind of keep going. And
Yeah.
I understand they had a few reasons to stay.
Oh, absolutely.
First of all, and I think was probably the biggest factor, and like, I'll be honest, I think they saw what happened with Age of Sigmar when it launched and were scared.
Oh, absolutely.
Hopeless,
Absolutely.
because,
That is a huge risk to take.
and Age of Sigmar, when it launched, was such a dismal failure.
Until the General's
Until
Handbook
the General's
came out,
Handbook,
it was
but-
a failure. I
But-
agree.
But I mean, like when you look at when they would have had to make these decisions, like they would have had to have made that
Almost
decision
immediately.
basically while they were watching AOS in its death throes before the GHB came out.
Yeah.
And
And
so-
before it really got strengthened back up to a decent position again.
And the other thing I've heard, which I also really agree with, is, and having seen some of those books in person recently, those Horus Heresy books that they produce are like 150 Canadian each. They're leather bound, beautiful.
It's one of the few
gorgeous
times I will
books.
say something that expensive is really
Is-
worth it.
yeah.
But as a book, that is really worth it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and it's like you're gonna go back to the people who at that point had purchased what, like 6 of them, 7.
Yep,
7 had
yep.
come out in between. They'd purchased like 6 of these
6
books.
was out at that point,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like, so you tell these people, yeah, all the rules in there, yeah, wah, wah, wah. So they made their choice, and again, like I think in retrospect to
I
right
think it was a
now,
hard decision to make,
it was.
especially without being able to have that benefit of hindsight.
Yeah, and
you know?
knowing that
we
like,
know
8th
what
edition
happened.
would,
Yeah.
would turn out so
Yeah.
well, and I think they're starting to feel that. Like
They're
pain.
doing a slow course correction, but
Yeah.
as a company, it does take time.
And the other thing that really hurt Forge World overall was the sad passing of Alan Bly.
Yes,
who-
absolutely.
Who was basically the person who
He was the heart and soul
he
of
was
it.
he was the heart and soul, the visionary of
Yeah.
the heresy.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of like Black Library authors I like follow on Twitter or whatnot who who commented on his passing and had relationships with him.
Yes, and the inspiration that he provided for them.
And how he had like very solid visions for where the heresy was going, what it was, but also had strong visions for like 40K, and we found that out in things like he had been the person sort of behind a lot of the conceptualization of the Fires of Syraxis, made that book one day come out.
Oh, my goodness.
And that was, for those of you who don't know, Fires of Syraxis was supposed to be the next Imperial Armor book.
The one we were referencing, that was the Tau AdMech conflict.
After a long stint.
Because before that was the Renegades and Heretics. And that was more like, here it is.
No, it was the Necron weird thing, I think.
That one was just before. Oh, no, the Necron was like... Necron was 12, I think. 13 was Renegade. 11 was Eldar. Or Chimera, 11 was Necron and 12 was Eldar. But anyway,
to give an idea of how far ago those books were.
We're having to sit and go, was it this one or that one?
Yeah, and so like they've not produced something. And the other thing that's interesting about Forge World that I was hearing from like other sources who are closer to GW, is that like they've also had an Age of Sigmar manager at Forge World.
Yes.
For for at least the past year and a half now, which is surprising because they haven't released a goddamn thing for Age of Sigmar. So you'd wonder, hey, what this person
is there something
doing?
In development?
Exactly.
Is there a
and
shift
obviously
occurring?
There's a change. But they're in a really awkward place right now, and we saw this obviously with 8th edition.
Yeah.
Like the gap at the end of 7th was a hard pill to swallow up until 8th.
Yeah, and I mean, as I've said, I was the 7th player that benefited heavily from the mess that was 7th, and I was happy to see it depart.
Oh, we got Scott Buer posting that Forge World needs to get on top of their rules, or they'll see more and more tournaments banning their stuff. Just don't ban my termites, or I will cut you.
Cut you so bad.
Cut you so bad.
Wish I didn't cut you so bad. But I do think he has a point. Forge World has been notorious for the large variance that they have in their rules and the imbalance. As you've said, even with the AdMech update, you had one unit that is by far and away an excellent choice, really easy to go with, and the other two were not really appealing. The rules didn't flesh out in a way that felt like they would be useful.
It was a very
and that for
choice.
Me really sums up the Forge World experience. It's either an awkward choice or it's an overpowered auto take.
It was very rarely shall they meet in the middle, and I think that's because they are different studios.
Absolutely,
and that goes back to sort of where we came into this topic, which is like, what are they going to do with these studios?
My personal opinion is I'd like to see Forge World focus heavier on the specialist games. Yeah. You're starting to see that occur a little more. You're starting to see them take over it heavier. That would be a niche that would carry them through for some time.
I have a couple things. I think Specialist is one, and they're definitely taking that niche. You can see them doing Specialty Blood Bowl. You can see them doing all the bits and packs for Necromunda now, which
as
is
soon
great.
as you start seeing things like Epic popping up again.
Well, I was going to say the big test of this. I think a lot of their resources have gone into it. Is the Adeptus Titanicus?
Titanicus is the big test. How this performs by the end of the year,
which is getting a book.
Yes.
Warhammer Community posted like late last week. They were doing. They showed the Black Library Weekender previews.
Yes.
And they announced that the event that the Titanicus game sort of based around the event called the Titan Death is actually going to get a novel as well, which is
that's good. That's good because when they give the novel support as well, they tend to be looking a little more long term.
And as someone who has been like full on into the Horus Heresy, I have just caught up on Wolfsbane a couple weeks ago, so I'm all caught up now. They've definitely been seeding the stuff for the Titan, for like the Titan Death coming up, and so to have like a game of that and to have like a book coming out, that is the type of narrative I really want to see in the game.
And it's what gets people hooked a little harder.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and having seen some of the early pictures of those knights assembled. They're going to be fantastic.
Oh, you mean the Titan?
Yeah, from the Titan. Yeah, like the Knights are little marine size, and then you're scaling up as you go to the other Titans. It's perfect scale. It really is.
Yeah, and I mean something like people have talked about, like, man, I want like an Emperor class Titan. Well, you're not getting that in 40K, but
I mean, if you want to spend like the Warlord itself is like what, 5,000 or 4,000 or something? Yeah.
Especially
so
like,
good luck. Good luck. We're gonna like triple that.
Like factor in like, I'm gonna get a professional to paint this because no.
Well, it was I remember when they did the relaunch of Apocalypse a few years ago, and they put out the full Ultramarine chapter.
Yes.
My big joke at the time was like, well, if I can afford to buy that, I can afford to have someone else paint it for me, because no way am I touching a project of that size. You know.
Yeah. So some further comments from the chat.
Yes, Ben on the Facebook side of things was saying that it's safe to say Alan Bligh was the backbone of all that, the Forge Worlds, the Heresy,
Absolutely.
the visions of how to go forward.
Yeah, and D. Wickham from Twitch don't see them going away. There will always be a market for really large models, and I agree with that to a point.
Sure, I agree. There's a market for large models.
I think that Games Workshop is going into that market more and more.
I think they're doing it more effectively.
Well,
they're doing it more reasonably in terms of price.
Yep.
And when you get to something really big, unfortunately, there are alternatives, and people will look with their dollar. They will.
I mean, Dreamforge Games came out with that
the Leviathan or whatever it was.
Mortis thing that people just went and jumped on. I've seen a ton of them locally.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And yeah, it's interesting. I remember a time, again in that sort of end of 7th ed, when you could buy Terminators from Forge World for less than GW Terminators, and now we're starting to roll back a bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Say what you will, Games Workshop prices actually haven't gone up lately. We haven't had that typical walk into the Games Workshop store in summer. It's like, well, get ready for the price increase.
That hasn't happened in years.
Yeah, 3 years now, I think?
Even longer, I think. Yeah, because a lot of the kits were still the same price from when I was starting.
I remember when I was clockwork.
Oh yeah, every summer, you knew.
Yep. June.
The Witch Elves for what was the Dark Elves, now for the Daughters of Cain, they were the high point, I think, of the stupid pricing. You know, you had the $70
for a Witch Elf box.
Yeah, for a box of 10, and you needed at least 4 boxes to get the 35 you needed to push the $90 cauldron around. Yeah, they were pricing themselves out really hard, but the community started vocalizing their disinterest in paying those prices, and they started paying attention to us again. So good on them all the way for doing that.
Yeah, it's been interesting, but as far as Forge World and where it goes, I think they're in an awkward place. I think we're going to see movement on that.
There's going to be some kind of consolidation.
Yeah, I think in the next year we'll start to see if Forge World really starts to focus. I mean, one of the key things for me, going all the way back to my termite discussion and the new rules, was last week or the week before, it might have been the end of the week before, they had a Horus Heresy game on Warhammer Community on the Twitch channel, which was super cool, and I watched it and I was all in. But the chat got real chatty about asking questions, because they actually had a captive Forge World audience to ask questions to. And
so for once, it was a chance to get information, because unlike the Games Workshop end of it, Forge World, it's still in that kind of dark information spot. We don't get as much communication.
It's essentially Weekender style.
It's the Weekenders,
we hear it a lot.
Yeah, that's where we get the most.
And so Forge World, they were answering some questions, and one of the ones that came up was what's going on with the hoplites and the peltasts and all the admech stuff. And they made a pretty direct statement saying well, we're not moving everything over to 8th edition. Some of it is Horus Heresy specific.
Yeah.
And it was kind
Some's just not changing.
Yeah, and it was kind of this awkward, but you had 40k rules for it in the last edition. Can't you just shimmy those over?
Yeah, it's why don't we have the translation?
Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then a week later we got rules, which was very curious to see, and I could definitely see they don't want that negative advertising, right?
Well, certainly they don't. Certainly, especially when you're taking that discussion in a forum that you need to subscribe to be able to reply to the discussion. So they're talking to fans that are a step above the others in terms of what they're investing. They're taking that further step to be able to communicate a little more directly, to make sure their questions are addressed, and they kind of blank them on it.
Or just not give the right information. It's very awkward, and I think we're starting to see some of those cracks become a bit more visible between Forge World and Games Workshop.
Absolutely.
And I really hope that it's not a big deal,
No.
making something.
I certainly don't want to see the death of Forge World or anything like that.
There's
just
always a place for it.
where are they going to evolve?
I would love to see them, as you said, look at some of the specialist games. I would really like to see them look at some of the specialist areas of the setting.
Yes.
One thing that Games Workshop really can't do from their position is Games Workshop can't start pumping out new Space Marine chapters to support. But Forge World is in a very excellent place to do that.
Which is funny, because that was one of their bread and butter for the longest time.
I mean, one of my all-time favorite products that they put out was the Badab War.
Yes.
Which I have an Astro Claws army, loyalist Astro Claws army.
I have the Luft Huron model, and that's
yeah,
it.
but it was
still,
like,
yeah.
There was a thing where I could buy all the shoulder pads. I could buy, unique like characters for the
Really
army,
customize
the
them,
decals,
yeah.
I still have all that stuff, and that was great. And I feel like that's the type of stuff they should specialize
Absolutely.
in.
Absolutely.
Because, you got to pick corners of the setting. I also think that there's
And they can't price themselves out of the market. They're
and you know
very
what?
close to
They
price
can-
themselves
They
out.
can price themselves higher, and I would
Yeah.
you know what? I'm theoretical numbers. Like if a set of Space Marine shoulder pads costs like $15 from GW, I wouldn't mind if Forge World cost $20 for theirs.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
You're paying for something that's a little more specialized. You've got a little more detail on that. That's
But there's also
acceptable.
a lot, like, the other thing I think Forge World should really look to focus on, and I would love as a player, is look at some of the historical stuff, which they've done in the past with, like, Imperial Armor, but I would love to see, things we haven't seen a lot of described, like the Age of Apostasy, the
Yes.
Carrion
Yes.
Crusades, nerd comment, nerd comment, nerd
And it was
comment.
funny, but with touching on the Beast Arises series that came out, it's opened it up to all of these other alternates that we haven't really touched on before. It doesn't matter if it's pre-heresy, it doesn't matter if it's post-heresy.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can be explored.
Yeah,
So
and
that'd
be a really excellent, I think, way for them to.
They have
build out.
options. They just can't pigeonhole themselves too hard into one area. So as long as they keep versatile.
But it's okay because they're going to work on my Sisters of Silence army, which I'm also building
Ah.
after Death Guard.
Sisters 2019, just the wrong kind.
Hey,
Hey.
the right kind with broadswords. Yeah. So I'm excited for
Yeah.
that aspect.
Now, I think that's going to kind of transition towards our next discussion here.
This does.
So, where do you get your bits from right
Where
now?
I get my bits?
Yeah,
So
we've got some discussion on where and how and why on the bits.
Where are the bits?
Why do you not have the bits
I
now?
went to a convention over the last weekend called Origins.
Origins?
Yeah.
Okay.
A very, very large tabletop gaming
Yep.
convention in Columbus, Ohio. I was there for my job, Paizo and Starfinder work, but I got to go to the dealer hall, which was super cool, and on that, oh boy, were there bins. And I think you can see these bins right now, and that is about a fifth of the bins that this one vendor had, where you just go up, crack open a bin. And
Well, I mean, you can see right there, there's about 26, 27 bins in
Yeah.
that one section.
Yeah, and there were more. They had fantasy. They had, like all of the old 8th Ed armies.
Yeah.
Like if you look really closely in that picture, it doesn't show up too well. There's a Gorka Morka label thing in there. They had War Master at the end.
Okay, so we're going to all the classes
Yeah.
here.
And then behind that they had like armies that you could purchase from. But it was very interesting for me because it's like I totally went through and I'm quickly like, okay, anything? No, it's been picked clean. Darn. But bits has been a really awkward thing, and I know like from a personal standpoint.
Well, ever since you started seeing that scale back of the online stores where it was available, the bit trading through GW itself, like
I remember going to a Games Day in Toronto where you could buy bits based on the weight.
see, I wish.
And that was like...
And I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt quick. Hello, Nikki. I see you found your way to the podcast. I posted a link on my page, so it's
Awesome.
interesting to see some of my Facebook friends drifting in.
Hi!
You got no idea what we're talking about, I bet, but
Nerds,
thank you. Much appreciated.
Beautiful.
So, bits.
But bits, yeah. So I remember I went to a Games Day Toronto, and it was like bits by the pound.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it was like, well, I sure do need a half pound of... And prior to plastic, I need a half pound of Death Watch shoulder pads and the bolters.
Okay.
And this was like, those were like pewter upgrade kits
Yeah.
that were out for something like 10 years before Death Watch got a plastic army. So they were pretty rare.
The classics.
I know a buddy of mine, I think it was Byron at the time, if you remember the old pewter Daemonet models,
yes.
the Juan Diaz
The Juan
ones,
Diaz classics.
the Juan Diaz classics.
The one they re-released.
Yeah, the one they re-released recently in their legacy models. Byron bought like 2 pounds worth of just the claws.
See,
And
I
he-
can see that.
And he did that.
That's such a great value.
He did that because he wanted them to be like tiny Tyranid capillaries
Oh,
on the bases of
no.
his Tyranids, and it was like that was so cool. You can't do that anymore. I found this with my Death Guard,
Yep.
and honestly with my AdMech. When I bought the AdMech, like because AdMech was long after Bits was dead.
Oh yes, yes.
Like,
It was dead and in the ground by
It
that point.
honestly like killed a lot of my drive for converting,
Yeah.
just because it was like I would buy the boxes that I needed to get them painted, and it's like I have no bits to convert, and I don't have enough familiarity with the kits to get the bits I want. And the internet died, but we're still here. We promise.
We are still talking.
All right.
All right.
So yeah, it was like that was a very interesting thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like so my AdMech is
And-
basically
yeah.
stock, and like I've done minor like
Oh,
hand
yeah, absolutely,
repositions, head
absolutely.
repositions, like done some green stuffing and blah 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 blah. Like that's been very very essential. The Nurgle, I'm doing a bit more on the converting side, but at the same point, when I did the Death Guard, they were all new models.
Yeah.
So I had no bits.
Yeah.
So it was like I picked up a few things. Like there are a bunch of conversions when I went to say pick up. Like I had some Forge World resin stuff that I put here and there. But I think it almost detracts from the player base's desire to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree.
And
If you
it's
make
like
it
a
more
giant-
available and more encouraged, people will do it more.
And it's a
which-
giant pain in the
Yeah.
butt to go on eBay to like
For
find
bits?
the one
Yes,
bit you
yes.
want, or have to go to like
Well,
like
when
the
I was-
bitsvendor.com and be like, okay, I need this one. Of course, that's the bit.
That's
that's
$1.50,
sold out,
okay.
And it's sold out.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
Bang. Like I want Blight launch. Nope.
Nope,
that-
nope, not gonna happen. Well, I mean, as soon as I picked up the Harlequin's book, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna need fusion pistols. Started looking through the bit sites. I'm like,
Denied.
no, I'm not paying that much. Okay.
Yeah, because
okay.
like
It's a high value,
and
high in demand
it is
item.
a business. I get it. They're going to take that bit and go, okay, this box is worth $40. It comes with 2 of these pistols. These pistols are high value. We're going to charge $8 for these pistols.
Yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
look at that as a fan and you're just like disqualified. And you kind of have to move on until you have the right.
Exactly.
Like, until
Or
the
you find
availability
the
is there.
someone who's come up with a conversion that works, or you
And
do
we're
through
seeing a lot more of that,
trades.
too,
Oh,
of, like,
absolutely.
the
People are getting
hodgepodge.
really creative.
Like, how
yeah.
do I turn a bolter into a storm bolter? And it's like
Yeah.
you see some of that.
Yeah.
Like,
My fusion pistols from Shuriken Pistols and the Harlequin Kisses.
oh yeah.
It actually looks pretty decent. It's not as good as the originals, but,
But hey, you
it
know what?
fits. You
It's-
can look
it's
at it and go,
there.
that's a fusion.
It's like, producer Josh prior to the show was sending around some questions, and one of them was like, how do you get bits now?
Yeah.
And I found like the way I'm getting a lot of stuff now is by posting in our local trading
Yes,
groups.
it's
and being
absolutely
like,
all local.
hey, do any of you have blah?
And it's such a give and take. Everyone is so good with sharing
Yeah.
bits. They know it's going to come back eventually.
Well, I was going to say, like, the number of times I've seen a certain someone in that chat be like, oh, I've got that bit. And it's like, okay, what do you want for it? A crisp high five. It's like, yeah, like that's awesome to see in a community.
It is. It really is good.
Like, that escalates to just like beyond bits to things like awkward to get models. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
For example, my Sisters of Silence that I'm slowly building. The number of them. Don't worry, Derek. I'm going to pay you for yours. I've got the transfer stuff. But it's like all these people were like, yeah, I've got a bunch
Yeah,
of sisters
yeah.
because I bought Prospero. They're sitting on a sprue. I'm like, I will gladly consume all.
I will
of these.
absorb and absorb and
And
absorb.
now I have like a pile of sprue this tall. Of
Good.
like,
Good.
you know,
That's the way to do it.
yeah, and I think that is kind of like brought communities closer together.
Yeah.
In a sense, but I also think it has definitely hurt at like our bigger tournament scene.
It has. It has.
Like I know essentially one person locally who I know regularly sources bits online, and that's
Yes.
Alex and his orcs.
Oh, he has to. He has to with his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like it's this interesting thing. I understand why GW stopped doing it. The overhead on that is insane.
Oh, the warehousing alone is just too much for
it's
them.
like the warehousing.
Yeah.
Like now that they're switching all the plastic
Yeah.
and it's just sprues. It's nice to see that there are some people picking that up. And like if you have to do like a big bits order, it's great to do it. I just am also finding that like I need 40 of this bit that's on one sprue.
Yes.
And there's like very few retailers who have cracked open 40 of the same sprue and
Just to get that. Yeah.
yeah.
See,
and
and it's funny because in Infinity, there's a system you go through called Shake on It, and they basically split up the boxes. But it's a lot easier there because you're talking a box with 4 models in it,
Yeah.
and the pieces are very specific to which model. So
Yes.
it's like boop, 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 done, gone. Try doing that in 40K. Everyone's going to want the one piece where there's 2 of them in the box,
yeah, and that's like I
or all the legs, because everyone's got torsos to spare, but.
Legs.
GW is smart. They put the number of legs that you need.
It's the Death Guard thing.
Yep.
I have a bunch of Plague Marines at home, and it's like as I go through them, it's like I have all these extra bits, and it's really funny. It kind of is insidious, and credit to Games Workshop. like I found this with my Nurgle Demons, and I'm finding it with my Death Guard. As I finish the army now, I have this mountain of sprue, and I'm like, man, I could do some really kick-ass conversions. Maybe if I buy one more box.
Yeah.
They got you.
Just
They
enough.
Got you.
Just enough.
Yeah.
Or, you know, you can always make the sprue Necron army.
Get out.
The Spruecrons?
The
Oh,
Sprue
yes.
Crowds, get out.
Oh, yeah.
Don't
Man,
don't
still one of my
listen to
favorites.
him.
Still one of my favorites of all time, right up there with the Hello Kitty Marines. Yeah. Where they actually took the heads of the Hello Kitty the action figures and things and put them on the Marine bodies.
I'll
It was like,
always
oh
stand
my
by
god.
the Mexicrons.
Yes, always the
The
Mexicrons.
Margarita Shaker monolith. Beautiful.
Only way it would have been better if it was Margaritaville, but
It's fair. It's fair.
that's fair.
Yeah, no, so
yeah.
bits has been like an interesting.
I find that similar with how I go about bits. More often it's through the community, through folks I know, and just that back and forth of, oh, you need this now? Okay, I'll be generous. Okay, you need this now? Okay, now I'm going to give you what you need.
Yeah.
It goes around and comes around.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, trying to go on the online bit sites, unless there's something very specific I'm after, and it's kind of a generalized bit, like in 7th edition, they had that demon formation where it was 4 demon princes,
Yes,
one from each of the different ones,
yeah,
right? So I ordered a Juggernaut head to do the corn one.
Yeah.
That piece was easy to find. There's a ton of Juggernaut heads out
Yeah,
there.
I did a similar thing with my demon prince, where it was like, I will cut off this head of the demon
Yeah.
prince and slap on this plague drone
one,
head.
yeah,
and-
yeah, exactly. Oh, the plague drone heads work so well for it.
Yeah, so we have I guess we can move on to
Absolutely.
some
So
of the things that are, I can rant
the
about
important
this one.
local events.
Yeah, let's talk about some
So
local stuff.
let's start up with the
Reminder,
Highlander
yeah,
ticket
reminder
reminder.
again.
Yep. Once again, go to 40belowgaming.com. Under the events, you will find the link for Highlander tickets. I think
Totally
we
doing that
have
right now.
maybe 4 left, 5 left. I can't remember the exact total, but producer Josh will bring it up for us in a moment.
I might bring it up because I still need to register.
Okay, so 1 less on Thurston.
If you beat me to it, you win fair and square.
Arr. But as we said before, absolutely sign up if you're interested. Get on the waiting list as well if the event happens to fill up. It's a fun one. It's interesting because of the restrictions
if you're
on
not
it.
familiar,
It's a good first event, I think.
The Highlander restrictions are much
There-
like Highlander.
There could be only one.
only one, except troops.
Yeah.
That's
You can have 3 of troop type.
of a troop type.
Yes.
Yeah. So for those of you who are interested, that is sort of the concept of the event is you can essentially have one of each, essentially data sheet.
Yes, the data sheet is the important part because if the data sheet says 1 of 3 of the vehicle, you
can still
are
do
allowed
the
to do
thing.
that. Yes, you can squadron.
So only one Plague Burst Crawler for poor Thirsty, but
My heart weeps for you.
I know 3
Yeah.
Mephitic Blight Haulers. Brrr.
It's okay. I managed to fit in one group of 6A wire bikes, so
That's beautiful. Beautiful.
We're okay.
Yeah, it's all good.
We're all right.
But it's a very interesting event type.
Yes.
If especially if you're someone who's always been sort of like leery on big tournaments because
Yes,
of, like,
this is one
some
that
of
I
the more
recommend.
hardcore, like I have brought the net
Hardcore.
deck. It's really hard to net deck with an event
you
like
can't
this.
net deck this thing.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I mean, I know we do get people that are a little nervous that haven't experienced events before, but once you step into that first one, most people are right into them and they're really excited to keep participating. The Highlander event and the doubles events that we put on are the best ways to get started.
Absolutely.
Highlander, because of the restrictions, it allows you to not have to face those super powerful lists immediately and still kind of figure out the feel of playing a tournament.
And doubles because you can blame your ally if anything goes wrong.
There are currently 3 available,
tickets left.
which
3.
means there could possibly be 2 once this podcast ends and Thurston jumps in.
No, you got some time. You got some time.
You got some time. We're okay.
Yeah.
But
So-
yeah, and the doubles, I find that interaction between 4 people playing, it's a little more lighthearted, a little more interesting,
Yeah.
and you get to meet a wide variety of people, folks you haven't necessarily played
And
against or seen in the
And
community.
you're not making that like terrible assumption coming in that everything's balanced because the second you have multiple armies working together, like
Yeah.
that can go right outside
Yeah.
the window one way or another.
Just remember, whoever paired up with Brendan Krusty is going to get the win.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently.
That's the tradition in the last year.
And that brings us to our next announcement,
Yes.
which is the Fog of War Age of Sigmar League.
We
which
are
is in
wrapping.
its final month, wrapping it up.
Yes. Any results, please submit them and get them in.
Get them into
This
David
is
Gordon right
crucial.
away.
David Gordon definitely needs those.
I
Even though
got
he's
my game
golfing in the hot heat right
yeah,
now.
he's out golfing right now,
Oh,
but
terrible.
you can still send them to him. If you're in the league, you probably know the various ways of reaching him. I finished my game.
Yes.
Yep.
And
It was a thing.
has anyone
thing
defeated
that
the list?
No.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
I don't mean to say that like a haha Nurgle haha, but actually my last game.
It was a well-crafted list.
My
Yeah.
last game was a very nail bitey.
Yes, I remember you describing that one.
I won because Nurgle Nurgle icon summoning is the great. Well, demon icon summoning is.
It's
the,
fantastic.
the
Yeah, you get that
greatest- the
one, and it's
greatest
like,
thing.
whoop.
But yeah, I had a great time in the league. It got me super excited,
Yep.
and
I was
getting
on the
me-
outside for this one, but it looks
yeah,
fantastically run.
Getting me really like amped up for the 40K league, which I'm signed up
Yes.
for as well. I think you are too.
I am on this
Yep.
one.
Um,
We are on Team Dirty Xenos, from what I understand.
well, yeah, Filthy Chaos, you know.
Yeah. Producer Josh as
is
well.
with us.
There we go.
Filthy Imperials. But yeah, so I'm looking
We'll
forward
show
to that.
them the light.
Well, because it was really nice because like, with the Fog of War League, I got all my Nurgle demons, well, a good chunk of them done. Now it's like straight into Death
Exactly.
Year of
Exactly.
Nurgle.
This is my way to push my Harlequins through.
It's a good way to do it.
I'm going to use it as motivation.
So the Call of Eternity is the 40K league.
Yes,
That's
we
gonna
are
be
about to start.
starting up next month,
The
beginning
3rd.
the 3rd. So right here, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
Tuesday, July 3rd will be our PvP Open Gaming Night. It is also going to be the first day when Call of Eternity is open.
Yep.
So if you are coming down to game, I would highly suggest getting here early, or be prepared to be waiting until about the
second
8
game,
o'clock time when we start getting the second games rotated
And
in.
we have the scenarios are up on the
Yes,
Gaming website.
I know David is going to be here as well, so he'll
Yep.
be able to help through anything.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
looking to be very interesting. The first one sure has encouraged me to put 3 Plague Burst crawlers on the table. Take that as you will, internet. But yeah, it's got a very interesting start in that I think we're starting at 1250 points.
1250, and there's some interesting restrictions, including not being able to use brigade or battalion detachments.
so if you
So
like
it's really
troops-
forcing you to work around it, you know,
By taking 3 Plague Burst crawlers.
or 3 groups of bikes.
Or 3 Fetid Bloater. Take your pick.
You know,
Take your pick.
it's there, they're a thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's happening.
It'll be good. You'll get a lot of people.
Not enough.
You'll get a lot of people.
Not
upset
enough.
with Riptides, but it's fine. It's all good.
If we weren't on the same team,
yeah,
that sounds like the
exactly.
challenge I like.
Exactly. It's all good.
Yeah.
So that looks like it's going to be a great time.
Absolutely. The one thing I love most about these leagues is that it really gets that motivation for your painting, for your building, and to try out some different things over about a 4-month period.
Yeah.
So it's good to keep the motivation going.
For me, it's the hobbying thing.
Exactly.
Because I like.
If I don't have something pushing me, I'm lazy on it.
Well, and it's like I find that like I will go into games with like in a league with the understanding of like like if there's 1 or 2 unpainted models in my army, like I'll feel bad, but then the next time it's like, well, if I don't paint anything this month,
I'm gonna feel
get
really bad.
further behind.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just kicks me in the butt.
Exactly.
Like,
You need that motivation.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I know like I ended the AOS league with 1 model in my army that wasn't.
That wasn't? That's really good.
That's because
excellent.
I put a second Great Unclean one in there, and that's a bit harder to paint up than Yeah, I know. Roddy. Good old Roddy.
Roddy Piper.
Yeah,
Woo!
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Still one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Even though he rain danced the crap out of me, he's still one of my favorites.
He's great.
Taught me I should have fielded 2 units of snakes instead of just a big one. Yep.
But yeah, no. So that's. I think it'll be a very interesting league. I'm looking forward to the
Absolutely.
event. Those 4 months are just in that sweet spot.
And the interesting thing about this time is it's definitely more of a narrative focus. I
Yes.
know that some scenarios have been worked out, that there's some very specific things going on,
Yeah.
and it all leads through the narrative towards the end. This has me very excited.
Yeah. I'm using I'm the narrative nerd, so it's
The only
like,
thing I have to
man.
do now is figure out the color scheme for my Harlequins, because that's right where I'm stuck. I gotta finalize that, and then I'm good to go.
Just go watch it and just like look at Pennywise.
Well, last time I did the pink and the blue.
Just
But
do,
now-
like, red and white, but like mainly white with dots of red. Just like beep beep, Richie. There you go.
Hiya, Georgie.
Yeah, Georgie. Yeah, there you go. That.
No. It's going to be the seductive honking picture for my
That's-
shirt. Absolutely
That's
is.
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. yeah, so those are the
That was the main things that we were focusing on this week.
kind of a lighter
our
in
biggest
the
mentions.
news week. I mean, part of the problem is right now a lot of the news is Age of Sigmar
It's
related.
about to jump, but we haven't gotten anything major this week for Sigmar. All of our big
Yeah.
spoilers happened last week.
Yeah.
And we're kind of in this holding pattern until next Friday when...
And I'm really hoping that like this weekend we're going to get some news on Sigmar for like, well, what Sigmar is going to have coming, because it's going to be more Night Haunt. Spoiler alert: expect more Night Haunt, expect more Sigmarines / Stormcast. But I'm sure that we'll get probably a 40k thing in the next week or two.
There's got to be something. They have 3 codexes left to put out, 2 of which they've announced.
5.
Yes. Technically 5. 3 that they're acknowledging.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they have to do one of them in there. I have a feeling we're probably going to see Space Wolves happen first. It's the one they can do with the least amount of fanfare. As much as I'd like to think they're going to drop Russ, I don't think it's happening right now.
Yeah, it's a very interesting period.
If they were last, I would have been more inclined to say yes, we're going to hit with Russ.
Yeah, I think we'll get a pretty like temperate Space
Yeah,
Wolf drop.
it's going to be mild.
I'm hoping for a bigger Orc drop, but I have concerns about that.
I have huge hopes for a big Orc drop, but I don't know if it's going to click or not. For it to work, it has to either be before, in the middle, or after all the Sigmar stuff.
Yeah.
So
and so if they do
that's
like
a lot of books.
Wolves first and then they drop Orcs, like I'm hoping, but they haven't shown anything really about Orcs. I mean, unless all those rumor engines are just going to send us for a twirl.
It's all Orc stuff in the end.
Yeah. But then it's like Genestealer Cult. They seem to really be kind of building up a couple more models and stuff.
Genestealer, I think, is going to be a larger expansion.
Yeah, which is good.
Not gigantic,
no,
but it's going to be larger because there are a few things that are missing still. The Aberrants are a key piece that they haven't put out outside of the Death Watch, the Overkill box set.
I was going to say, I would expect us to get like maybe 2 boxes and two clan packs.
Yep. I'd like to see another character.
I'd like to see
one.
a special character. I think some of those armies, that's what they need, are special characters.
I would have liked to see a Harlequin special character, but I can wait.
Yeah, you got. What are you complaining about?
I got fusion guns in both.
You got a Wraith Gate.
Whee! Oh yeah, my Wraith Gate. Woo! A 13-inch high model that I will knock over every time I try and reach past
you will
it.
Never use.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is about it for us for this week.
I would literally rather spend the stratagem and have my guys go through the webway than have them come out the webway gate.
He's real better. I brought it up just to egg him on a little bit. But yeah, I think
that definitely covers us.
Yeah. Special thanks to all of our sponsors. That includes the likes of Battle Foam, who
you are intimately familiar
I'm
with.
intimately familiar with, and have like 5 cases and walls of foam in my basement.
Yeah. We've also got Game Night Games, who have expanded to their new location in the last little while.
And if you're interested in like War Machine and Hordes, I know that they've been playing.
They
games
are
on
fantastic
Tuesday,
for those. Yeah. Tuesdays.
Yep.
I know I've had people come up to me and ask me at the Open Gaming before if we would ever plan on doing War Machine or Hordes. Always the answer for those kind of things is it's dependent on interest and scenario. But knowing that Game Night has a scheduled day for them, definitely check them out. We also have Byron's Northern Lights Terrain, who puts out wonderful work. Some very nice 8th edition terrain being worked up right now.
And some very solid terrain, like you can't see through it terrain, which is what you need.
Not that stuff that GW is putting out.
And a lot of very like appropriate Infinity style terrain.
Yes. His Infinity terrain is excellent.
Yeah, been very good. After that, we have the illustrious Hidden City Comics,
who has been our sponsor very faithfully for this last year, ever since 8th edition.
Yeah, ever since 8th edition, they'll be having their open gaming at the store tomorrow night.
Yes, and keep in mind, if you are looking to pre-order the new Age of Sigmar sets that are coming out, including the new General's Handbook, the starter set, the Malign Sorcery, hell, even the little easy-to-put-together packs they're putting out, go through Hidden City Comics. You will save 13%. That is no taxes.
Yeah, no taxes. And, if you're...
Because that's easier for everybody.
That's right. Then we also want to thank PvP Cyber Lounge.
Yes, who is currently hosting us right now.
Yeah.
Wonderful location. Space. Please come down for any of your computer gaming needs.
I like any place I can ramble and get a drink
and talk and
play games.
Right?
That'll July 3rd will be our next open game. So.
Yep. Please pop down for that one. Yeah. And then our 2 longtime sponsors, AYB and On Call Solutions.
Yeah, AYB, long-time solution.
And sponsor.
And On Call Solutions, who handles our website.
They've worked very closely with Twin Eagles, and then when we merged all into one with 40 Below. Great work, great support from them. Yeah.
So,
So we
thanks,
have some
everyone.
wonderful folks that back us up. That's what
Yep.
we're getting at here. And if you folks could support them as well, that would be fantastic.
Yep.
And with that, I don't think I have anything else more to say unless we
I got
fire up a
nothing.
rant about those stupid Deepkin dice.
Termites.
Termites. So remember, folks, if you're not rolling ones, you're cheating.
Okay. Bye.
That, I don't think I have anything else more to say unless we fire up a rant about those stupid